Kirby here, they tend to stay just above Auric Runehammer, which makes them really good to play down on curve against the Armory deck. Finding the right unit to play on curve against an Armory deck is
Welcome back, everybody, to Season 5, Week 6 of the ETS. We're in Round 4 of Swiss. I am Calimdir, also known as Gabe, and I'm joined by co-caster LocoPojo.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well today. We got another fine matchup for you. It's going to be a Voda combo deck versus a Stone Scar Burn list. And Tatsumaki playing Voda combo versus Buckwheat on Stone Scar Burn. Seeing a pretty standard burn list, Umbran Reaper, Flame Blast at the top, along with 3 Soulfire Drakes. So we've got 6 5-drop units that are just going to be really dominating the board for Stone Scar lists. And then the Tatsumaki deck is running 3 Vodakins, 4 Mystic Ascendants, and 3 Iron Thorns at the top to sort of push out that exceptional combo that you can get with the Vodakins, Ascendants, and Iron Thorns together, where you just draw out your entire deck and blow your opponent out completely.
I was going to say, as personally, as a avid burn player, I think Buckwheat's take on Stone Scar Burn is actually pretty interesting and non-standard. So typically we see the Burn Queen variants of Burn right now in favor over the big Burn decks of old. But Buckwheat is trying to bring back that sort of big Burn Umbran Reaper style. Not only that, though, he's a very different take on it versus some of the older styles, because he's running 2 Treachery main board. He's running 3 Soulfire Drakes and 3 Umbran Reapers. Typically, it's like 2 Drake, 4 Umbran Reapers, or like no Drakes and 4 Umbran Reapers. So just really interesting choices all around. And he's also got 3 Dark Returns, Seek Powers over Caleb Favors, which is a new addition, and just Pyro Knights to go with the Dark Returns, which I think is really interesting, and
Focusing on that increased reliability as well as the extra 5s. We're into the game already. Paradox is playing the Torches and the Initiate of the Sands. He's got his Diogo Malaga ready to go. He's also got a Sandstorm Titan waiting in the wings. He can choose either to seek power here and get his guaranteed 4th power next turn, or to play Initiate and get a little bit more meat on the board while also still sort of picking up potential power next turn. It's a little bit tricky, but it seems right here to do what he's just done. Oh, I'm probably looking up the whoopsie daisies. Yeah, I was.
And that's how Paradox game is going, in case anyone's wondering.
Yeah, one of the old ones. All right, okay, we're actually waiting to get the game started. Sorry, folks. Okay, so we have Cabal Countess and Impending Dooms in the opening hand of Tatsumaki, and in the opening hand of Buckwheat, we have Desert Marshal and the Great Parliament. Both of them have enough power to actually make these hands work, so we'll see if we keep them.
Yeah, I think on Tatsumaki's side, he might be tempted to keep it, even though it's pretty slow. I think Desert Marshal is some of his only early interaction, and Find the Way might be good enough, although he might try and hard redraw for Combra Healer and more power. We'll see.
Those Combra Healers
do you like Buckwheat's hand, or do you think it's too slow?
I think Buckwheat's hand looks pretty okay. The Desert Marshal's a nice addition. He certainly does like those Combra Healers if he can get them, but it's a little tricky to throw these hands back, since the thing you're most looking for is just a reliable power drop every turn. If you can get to your Sandstorm Titans, to your Great Parliaments, to your other stuff there, and still play even a little bit in the interim, that can really help you out in the overall game.
Yeah, so Tatsumaki redrawing into exactly what we wanted there, what you were talking about with the Desert Marshal and the Combra Healer. He doesn't have a 4th power, but the voice of the speaker is going to probably get him there. And then Buckwheat just off the top drawing that perfect Champion of Chaos, which really helps him out, because otherwise he would have been playing the first Impending Doom just right into Desert Marshal or Sandstorm Titan, and then the second one would get blocked by Sandstorm Titan for sure. But
yeah, getting the fire for this champion is really important. It means that even if Tatsumaki decides to chump block, that's like a ton of damage. He gets to push 5 this turn and then another 4 next turn, regardless of if there's a Sandstorm Titan or not. Buckwheat has his Impending Dooms, but of course Sandstorm Titan is a decent counter to that card.
Yeah. So this matchup is a little bit different than the Burn Queen matchup for Voda combo. While Tatsumaki does have main deck healers and protects, which are very good against burn, I still think this matchup is quite a bit better for Stone Scar Big Burn than it is for Burn Queen, just because Impending Doom and all the flyers are very good. Sandstorm, you can only have 4 Sandstorm Titans, and Buckwheat, you know, he's got Annihilates. He can take care of a Sandstorm Titan, and then you're just facing down all of these flying units, and you only have so many Desert Marshals and Sandstorm Titans. It only takes 1 unit to kill you.
Cambrai decks are very, very large, but they do not have a particularly good air game. So as long as you can get rid of the Sandstorm Titans, there's a lot of ways to fly over them. Tatsumaki making the right play here, keeping a hold of his own Sandstorm Titan. He chooses to play the Cambrai healer out to gain a little health back, and then he'll probably follow that up with a power into a Desert Marshal on Champion of Chaos. Once that happens, his Sandstorm Titan will be able to continue to aggress on the board while it holds the Impending Dooms off and Buckwheat slowly bleeds down from them.
Yeah, I mean, this is everything Tatsumaki wants. He's got all the power he needs for the rest of the game. He can leave up this Protect Forever. The Sandstorm Titan's not going anywhere. And then, yeah, he's going to have a Desert Marshal to deal with a potential Umber Reaper, Soulfire Drake, or another Champion of Chaos. So it's just a really good spot for him. But he doesn't protect the Torch, which allows the Cabal counters. And that's really smart play by Buckwheat to Torch first before committing anything. And that allows the Impending Doom to potentially start getting damage. But, you know, as we just said, Tatsumaki's got that Desert Marshal in hand.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good for him here. Because he was able to get rid of the Sandstorm Titan early and keep his flyers available, he's actually got a really good set of attacks here, a 10 damage on the board, plus the Impending Dooms for another like 15 next turn. Tatsumaki is on Wrath or Die at this point.
Yeah, if Tatsumaki hadn't attacked, this would be a very different game. But because Tatsumaki attacked and Buckwheat played around Protect perfectly, the game turned around really quickly.
Yep, it's a pretty big deal here. We've got the full blocks on Impending Doom to get rid of that, and now Tatsumaki still has to deal with the Champion of Chaos, but he's not in quite as bad a situation because he's able to hold off the board for a little while, eventually get the Vodakhan down, and hopefully protect that Vodakhan. The only problem is that he still has to deal with the Champion of Chaos, and, unfortunately there's not a lot of good ways to deal with that and the Impending Doom at the same time.
Parliament and Vodakhan and Sierra for all great cards, and Protect really helps, but none of them are Sandstorm Titan or Desert Marshal, which are the cards that he really needs here to sort of stop the bleeding.
Yeah, like Buckwheat has that Dark Return, which is certainly helpful for pushing extra damage, and with the Seraph and the Parliament, he can sort of hold for a bit. The Seraph at least gets the Champion out of the way, and then with the Great Parliament playing an Owl, he'll be able to delay for one more turn, but playing Vodakhan down doesn't really save him here. He really needs some other answer to the Impending Doom.
Yeah, now he has to leave this Protect up at all times because otherwise he's just dead to a burn spell, which we know that Buckwheat doesn't have in his hand, but Tatsumaki I'm sure will be thinking about. And at any point, Buckwheat could just draw it anyway.
I think Tatsumaki's only out at this point is a Harsh Roll. Buckwheat can Dark Return his Champion of Buckwheat can Dark Return his Champion of Chaos and get that back up and really start to go to town if that's what he wants to do. With Tatsumaki looking at Vodakhan Temple Speaker next turn, that's not really a very good play for him. The Parliament's just a little bit too little too late. So if Tatsumaki doesn't draw a Harsh Roll, he's going to be pretty well done.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just the damage coming through with Deadly Overwhelm on Champion of Chaos is just, you can't deal with that with blockers.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big problem. So Tatsumaki can, throw a Protect very early and put his own face in the range of it, but I think he's just dead on board at this point. Vodakhan Temple Speaker doesn't do it. Parliament is just a chump blocker that kills Champion, and Buckwheat's units are gonna get through for enough damage to finish off this game.
Yep, Tatsumaki goes to -1 here, and that'll be game 1 for Buckwheat. And that's kind of to be expected, game 1, Voda Combo versus Burn. Voda Combo will have, hopefully, some sideboard tech. Let me take a look. I haven't actually gone over the sideboards, but I feel like generally Burn is favored versus Voda Combo game 1. That's just how it ends up being.
Yeah, it's not looking great for Tatsumaki. He didn't have the Harsh Rolls in his main board, but I'm guessing they're going to be coming in on the side because being able to kill those Impending Dooms is a really big deal.
Voda Combo does not run Harsh Roll in the main board typically, so that would have been a really rough to get out of, just having to draw Cambrai healers back to back.
Witness and Harsh Rule both potentially coming in. He could also run Scorpion Wasps, which aren't particularly effective against the Champion of Chaos, and Valkyrie Enforcers, which are. But Scorpion Wasp can be very good against Impending Doom, against Soulfire Drake, against a bunch of other options. I think mostly what Tatsumaki wants to be doing is siphoning in a lot of extra defense. Desert Marshal, Valkyrie Enforcer, Harsh Rule, Leave a Witness. It looks like his whole sideboard can come in at this point, with the exception of the Decays.
Yeah, basically the whole sideboard is for this matchup. I think Leave a Witness is a bit too power intensive. It's a bit too high on the curve. Scorpion and Wasp is also not ideal, but there's just enough flyers that I think it's fine. But really, the key cards are the Extra Protect, the Desert Marshal, and the Valkyrie Enforcers, and the Harsh Rules. On Buckwheat's side, how do you feel about his sideboard?
Buckwheat's got a lot of interesting options here, though Lothrai Falchions probably aren't coming in this particular instance. The Statuary Maidens are pretty cute, but unlikely to be that good against a heavy silence board. I think Buckwheat's primary includes here are the Annihilates and the Death Strikes, and perhaps a Sabotage or two to get the Harsh Rules out of the hand and force Tatsumaki into a situation where he's just blocking his own units with the Stone Scar units, which are very superior on the aggressive side. So Buckwheat doesn't have to make as many changes to his overall deck plan. That's going to be probably to his favor overall, but with Tatsumaki having like a lot more stuff coming in, this matchup is going to change pretty dramatically.
Yeah, so I quite like Sabotage, but I don't quite like it enough to put it in over any other cards is the problem. Tatsumaki's deck, or Buckwheat's deck, is already very good against Tatsumaki's deck, so trying to cut things and bring them in versus Vodacombo is just really difficult because your deck already is matched up so well versus Vodacombo.
Yeah, you don't have to make any significant changes here. If Buckwheat didn't add anything from his sideboard, he'd still have a decent matchup against this particular list.
Yeah, I mean, you want to have things like Statuary Maiden and the extra Annihilate or Removal, and then Sabotages, just to sort of get through, push through the Protects, and then Statuary Maiden is just overwhelm the opponent with silence targets. But it's not better than any of your other units, and you can't cut, you can't cut anything for it. So I think he's gonna make some very minor changes probably.
Yeah, like my guess is that the Annihilate will come in, perhaps the Death Strikes as well, because there's a lot of big units to get through in this particular list, and if you can get rid of the Sandstorm Titans, that's really just your key to victory. Tatsumaki's deck is always going to be slower than Buckwheat's, and even if the Valkyrie Enforcers and Desert Marshals come in, it's going to be pretty hard for it to get to its Vodakins and get to its sort of bigger combo stuff while Buckwheat is pressuring. There's just not enough early game pressure here.
Yeah, so what I just saw Buckwheat do, which I think is very smart, is he took out all of his Argenport Instigators because they don't really do very much in this matchup because how efficient Vodacombo's blockers are. That a 3/3 just isn't really getting in for much damage. Sure, it's fine to sit on the board with, Champion and stuff, but it's going to allow him to bring in maybe some of those cards we talked about, like Sabotage or Extra Removal, or he brings in the Death Strike, or maybe Maiden. My concern about Extra Removal is just how poorly it lines up with Protect, but that's kind of okay. If they're protecting to keep a unit alive and you can still keep attacking, you're totally okay with that because that lets your burn get through.
Yep, it's a pretty tricky situation, but overall it looks like they're going to be doing pretty okay. Like the players are getting ready to start their game up. They've got their sideboards all set up. The Argenport Instigators certainly are going to help out. And overall it looks like we're just going to be seeing what this game 2 looks like. Buckwheat with a 1-power hand, throwing that back immediately.
Yep, both players redrawing. And Tatsumaki a bit on the slow slide, but I think a bit on the slow side. But I think Vanquish will help him recover a little bit of ground, and then if he can somehow manage to play this Sandstorm Titan on time, he'll be in a reasonable position.
Yeah, Buckwheat does not have an amazing hand here. He gets to play Champion of Chaos, and that'll have Deadly, but it's not quite as good as his on-curve Champion from the last game, which was very, very good for pushing that amount of damage. Now he faces the problem of the triple Influence 5 drops, where he needs to get that as early as possible, but also he's not going to be able to play that card until he draws enough red to really make it work. And while Seek Power is certainly a card that can help with this if he draws it, he currently doesn't have great answers.
Wow, and he doesn't even attack with the Champion. He doesn't want to trade that with the CRF, which is fair. But Tatsumaki now, I think, in a very commanding position, being able to play the Sandstorm Titan with a Protect up, have Harsh Rule, Vanquish back up, and then just be able to stall out with, he's already got one finisher in Parliament, and his whole deck is full of pretty big units. So I think Tatsumaki's in a pretty commanding position here, like I said. But
Yeah, all of
on
that
the side of
changes.
Buckwheat, look at all that burn.
Yeah, all of that changes if Buckwheat draws a red sigil next turn, and he doesn't get it. He gets a Soulfire Drake instead. That's a really bad influence lock for him. He's not looking in particularly good shape. He can attack in and sort of like trade with the Seraph, but that was already a trade that he said he wasn't going to take, so he's not going to commit to it this turn either. At this point, getting a fire allows him to obliterate a lot of very scary targets and start pushing with the Champion of Chaos. But Tatsumaki is already moving on power 6, and Buckwheat's just not drawing the influence he needs.
Yeah, and Tatsumaki just does not have to commit to Sandstorm Titan, which means that Harsh Rule is great here. Also, he just gets to play Mystic Ascendant on 7, draw right off it immediately. This is exactly where Tatsumaki wants to be.
Yeah, Mystic Ascendant essentially reads draw a card, gain 6 life, your opponent discards a card, and if they don't do that, then you win the game. There's just a lot of problems here. Like, Mystic Ascendant is just a big issue because not only does it counter out the Obliterate, like, it's just really, really bad for everything going on there, and he gets to protect his Seraph, which is sort of an interesting protect target, but since he's going to be playing a power this turn, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, he wanted to have all 8 power up available for him, and he's concerned about removal. Not sure if it was necessary. And Heart of the Ball off of Seraph, that is absolutely dirty, completely disgusting. The story of this game, it has just been Buckwheat is supposed to be the aggressor, and he has been stuck on influence, and Tatsumaki looks like the aggressor here. So
yeah, didn't get the curve he was looking for. The champions can attack in and trade with the Heart of the Vault, but that's about it for the amount of damage that Buckwheat can do. With the Protect on Seraph, there's no way that's going away anytime soon, and Buckwheat still has to draw 3 red influence to get his Flame Blasts online. I don't think he has a good way out of this game.
Yeah, I mean, Tatsumaki can just sit here, hold up, protect, keep activating Seraph. Bounce, oh man, bounce the Champion of Chaos. Get him for 13 here if he wants. Wow, this is just rude at this point.
It's pretty bad. It's not looking good at all for Buckwheat. So Tatsumaki is able to play out his cards, and we see Buckwheat just with the concede. There's not really a lot of hope here, so he just go ahead and tosses that. And
yeah, the burnt deck goes up in flames. And we move on to 1-1.
Yeah, it's a bit of a situation. So there looks like they're going straight into the next game. Both players pretty confident in their sideboards. Buckwheat obviously pretty eager to get back in with a hand that actually has some influence here. Might be tempted to keep this one. It's a 5-power hand, but it also has all of the influence he wants. He chooses to redraw instead and gets a hand with a much better curve.
Yeah, the treachery makes it a little better, especially when it takes out a Sandstorm Titan. Having a turn 1 play was relevant in that last hand, but then he just had nothing after that. And now here he's got treachery into Champion of Chaos, which I think with the double Annihilate backup, he's going to take care of the first Sandstorm Titan and then have an Annihilate for the next threat that comes down.
Yep, he can play Sandstorm Titan, he can play his champion here, or he can treachery the second Titan, which means that his Annihilates are not looking particularly good in hand. Tatsumaki does not have a lot of other monocolored units, but he's able to play Champion of Chaos with a seat here, and that's a 5-3 weapon or 5-3 that's just going to be really charging in. Tatsumaki, in the meantime, staring down a handful of 9 power, so not a single playable card for Tatsu. The treacheries have gotten rid of both of the Sandstorm Titans, and Tatsu's just looking for a better answer.
I mean, obviously, Tatsumaki being stuck on power isn't great, but I think this is exactly where Buckwheat wanted to be as far as playing cards. He's got a Flail to deal with anything that doesn't die to Annihilate, and Annihilate does kill Ironthorn, Titan, and Mystic Ascendant, which are the real problem cards for Burn, and an Owl if you just play that to block.
Yeah, he's very comfy attacking for 5 here with the Annihilates in hand to kill the Temple Scribe. Tatsumaki doesn't fall for it, but that means he does take 5 damage. Buckwheat not going to play his Charchain Flail. It's too good a card for throwing away. And from here, he can sort of pick up a unit if he wants to, but more likely he's just going to seek power, get himself ready for that Soulfire Drake on the next turn, and maybe kill Seraph with a Charchain Flail.
Yeah, I think he's going to kill the Seraph, which... I think now Tatsumaki might feel safe taking the double block, but it's still, 3 damage days getting in. Tatsumaki's at 13, and there's a Soulfire Drake coming next turn.
Yep, it's not a good deal. The Soulfire Drake or the Champion are both very playable at this point. Tatsumaki could have a Desert Marshal, and that's always a risk for Buckwheat, but there isn't one in the hand, so he's just going to take a bunch of damage, get the Harsh Rule, and now there's Charge and Flying units in Buckwheat's deck. This is looking very bad for Tatsu.
Yeah, and he's going to try and play his Mystic Ascendant to stabilize, and he's going to immediately meet with 3 Annihilates.
Have another Soulfire Drake, so that's a big issue. Like, it's just, there's too much stuff on the board. If Tatsu draws a Desert Marshal, then he has a way out of the game, but unfortunately he just draws additional power.
Yeah.
And with the Mystic Ascendants there, he's just out of luck.
Yeah, one good top deck deserved another, and he top decked the Vanquish, but turns out when you have 2 Soulfire Drakes activated in your deck, everything has Flying and Charge, and here comes the Impending Doom to finish it out. And that's a quick game 3 there. 2-1 for Buckwheat.
Yeah, Stonescar Burn pushing through, getting a lot of the right damage with the right units. Looked like a very good game for him, and hopefully we shall see that deck proceeding onwards. Always glad to see that Stonescar Burn coming back in style.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting take on it. The Dark Returns are working out better than I anticipated. I mean, he didn't end up playing them that much, but they felt live. There weren't as many silenced units as I thought there would be. And overall, that's just a good matchup for big Stonescar Burn. Just it's just too many powerful threats for Voto Combo to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very aggressive deck, and it certainly does very well against sort of the big Combre push.
Yeah, and it's aggressive it's an aggressive mid-range deck, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's important. Certainly, it's been a popular archetype in the past, and it looks like with the sort of big Praxis mid-range / big Combre mid-range type of meta that we've been seeing in the tournament, it's a good time to bring it in.
Yeah, exactly. The big burn was always good against these big, heavy time decks, and if everyone's on Praxis, that might be coming back in style. But yeah, that's about it for round 4 here. We'll be coming back with round 5 after a short break.